So, hello everyone, and welcome all of you, those who are joining this project discussion series, episode number 16 online, and also welcome to those who are going to watch this video later on as per their convenience. So, this is our episode number 16, and last month we could not come online, but here we are once again. So, let's begin then. Today, again, as always, we have some interesting points that we will be discussing. So, we will start by understanding the behavior of semi rigid and rigid diaphragm assignment option in ETABS. That will be our first point of discussion. Then, we will have a thought provoking discussion on are we destroying our nature and are we destroying our ecosystem and are we destroying ourselves by too much of infrastructural development. So this discussion we will have later next. Then we will meet engineer Akash Babar from Sangli, and he will be talking on a rather important issue about the soft skills for engineers and how soft skills for engineers are very essential, and he would be throwing some light on that. So we have some different topics that we are going to discuss today. So let's begin then, and we will start with our first discussion that will be about semi-rigid and rigid diaphragms. So I hope my voice is audible. There is some light problem, so the light is little bit low, but I think voice is properly audible. Good. So let me share my screen and we will start with our first point that will be about the semi-rigid and rigid diaphragms. Okay, so I think most of us have used ETABS and we come across this assignment, these options in ETABS about the diaphragm assignment. One thing, let me tell you that when I'm talking about diaphragms over here, I'm not talking about the uh, floor as such, because generally the floors are also called as diaphragms. Okay, so I'm not talking about floors, I am only talking about the assignment, a constraint that we give in ETABS. All right, of course we give that on floors, but what I'm trying to tell you that diaphragm is a usual technical word also used for uh, calling a floor. So okay, so here I'm talking about the diaphragm assignment option that is available in ETABS. So I think all of us know that there are two diaphragm options. One is the rigid diaphragm option, and the other is the semi-rigid diaphragm option. So yes, what is a diaphragm first of all? So in ETABS, diaphragm is nothing but a constraint that is applied on the floor or slab. Let me just uh, start by telling you. Yeah. So diaphragm is nothing but a constraint in ETABS that is given for floor or slab elements. Okay. I think most of us understand, we are all students of physics, so we understand what is meant by a constraint. So what is the constraint in rigid diaphragm? The constraint in rigid diaphragm is that there cannot be no relative in plane rotation and translation. Okay. The important word over here is relative. That means your uh, slab as a whole or floor as a whole can rotate or can translate, but point to point, relative points on the slab, they cannot have a relative in plane rotation or translation. So if I want to apply such a constraint, that is called as the rigid diaphragm. All right. So very simply put, it is just nothing but a constraint option available in ETABS. So when we put this constraint, what does it mean? It means that all the points on your floor, all slab, will displace as a rigid body. Okay. So no relative rotation, no relative translation. Of course, they can rotate or they can translate as a unit in plane. Out of plane, there is no constraint. That means out of plane, your slab can bend or your slab can deform, or the points relative to each other can deform or translate out of plane. So when I apply a rigid diaphragm constraint in ETABS, there is no constraint on the out of plane behavior. Okay, so this is how in plane rotation or translation will be restricted when I put a diaphragm constraint. So if you see, this point B can translate from B to B dash. Okay, the A point can translate or rotate from A to A dash, but relative to each other, has AB and A dash B dash moved relative to each other? So answer will be no, because originally also their distance between them was, let's say, x, and after the translation also the distance is x. So relatively they have not moved with respect to each other. Globally they have moved. So translation is allowed, rotation is allowed. Relative rotations and translations are restricted. This is about the rigid diaphragm constraint. What happens out of plane? Out of plane, there is no such constraint. Your points can have relative translations, as you can see over here. This point is translating more, this point is translating less. In out of plane, they can have rotations. So this point has rotated by this angle, another point has rotated by this angle. So relatively, there is a relatively they have rotated with respect to each other. So out of plane there is no constraint. Okay, this is what we mean by rigid diaphragm behavior. Now when do we assign, or for which floor elements or for which type of slabs can we give a rigid diaphragm constraint? So generally if you see, you get a reference in the IS 1893 part 1 2016, and it tells you that monolithic slab beam construction with a floor plan aspect ratio of less than 3, this can be considered as a floor or slab which qualifies to be given a rigid diaphragm assignment. Okay, and this is the codal provision that I have picked. This is 7.6.4. So if you see, reinforced concrete monolithic slab beam floors with reasonable reinforced concrete, at least a 6 mm bar at 150 mm center to center spacing as reinforcement, and plan to aspect ratio of less than 3. So if these all things are met, then almost you can say that your slab can behave as a rigid diaphragm, and you can give a rigid diaphragm constraint to it. Okay, this is the meaning. We all know this. So what happens when rigid diaphragm is assigned? This is important to understand, that when a rigid diaphragm action is assigned, what will happen? That the relative, as I told you, the relative in plane translations and rotations are logged. Okay, so if the relative in plane translations and rotations are logged, now if I ask you, will there be any in plane stresses that will be generated in the analysis output? Tell me, will any in plane stresses or in plane shears or in plane axial forces be generated when I give a rigid diaphragm action? Yes or no? What do you think? Hello. So the question is, if I apply lateral load, so will this slab in the output give you any F11 stress, that is in plane stress, or will this slab in the output, will it give any axial load output? Will it give any axial shear stresses? What do you think? So the thing to understand over here is, and because of which we are conducting this topic, the important thing to here understand is that because the in-plane translations and rotations are logged, okay, when you do your analysis, the in-plane F11 stresses or the in-plane bending moment or the in-plane shear is not calculated, and that will be given as 0 in the output. Very important to understand. Okay, so when you assign a rigid diaphragm action and when you do the analysis and go to look at the outputs, you will see all these results, all these outputs as 0. So they will not be considered so they will not be calculated in analysis, and therefore they will also not be taken in the design. So we are going to actually miss out on these outputs. When we assign a rigid diaphragm, we are going to miss out on these analysis outputs. Now this may not be a problem. This may not be a problem in slab panels which are small in area and are bound by regularly closely spaced beam frames. Okay, so when you have such a system, when you have a small slab panels bound by beams on all sides, you will see that the axial stresses in the slab, the in plane shear stresses, in plane bending moments anywhere numerically not that high. So it's not a big problem in these types of systems. But the problem may arise in a different system where you are losing out on these analysis results. So I've written for some systems this may prove to be a problem. I'm going to show you how, in which systems this issue that we are losing out on some analysis outputs will be a problem to us. Okay, so I'm going to show that to you. So systems like this, which are, let's say, closely spaced columns, closely spaced beams, here I don't have much problem even if I give a rigid diaphragm assignment, because anyway the panel is so small that the axial stresses in plane will be smaller in magnitude. So here I am not very worried. Where do I start to worry? I start to worry in systems like this. If you see this system, what is this type of system called as? Hello, anyone? What is this type of system called as? So this type of system, if you see, this is a usual system that is adopted in your tall structures or high rises where you have a perimeter moment frame, okay, and then you have a central core, and you connect this outer system, outer lateral load resisting system, with the inner lateral load. Of course it takes the gravity load also, but the predominant use is to uh, resist the lateral loads. So this is one lateral system, the perimeter movement frame, and then you have the central core. Connecting them are your connector elements, or what we also called as the outriggers, isn't it? So suppose in this type of a system, if I assign a rigid diaphragm assignment, do you foresee any problem with that? Anyone who foresees, anyone who thinks it will be a problem if I assign a rigid diaphragm in this type of a system? Tell me. No answer. I hope I am audible to everyone. So the problem over here will be, if you are able to anticipate, the problem over here will be that when there is a lateral load acting, what will happen, that between this system of central core and the other system of perimeter movement frame, the lateral load is usually transferred from one system to another through these collector elements. That's why they are called as collector elements. Okay, so they resist, or they transfer rather, the lateral loads between these two systems as axial forces. So the problem is that if I have assigned a rigid diaphragm, then will I get any axial force output in these collector elements? If I have assigned a rigid diaphragm, tell me, will I get any output in these collector elements for axial forces? So I will not get any axial force output. Okay, I will not get any axial force output. Yes, one more point that Mr. Mohammad Saqib Azam is saying, that also because the deformations of these two systems will not be similar, it will again be a problem if I assign a rigid diaphragm to it. Yes. So in systems like this, assigning rigid diaphragms will be a problem because we are losing out on the analysis output, and thereby we will eventually lose out on the design results. Okay, because we are not designing our element for proper forces, because the axial force will be displayed as zero. I'll give you a demonstration just to show this point. So assigning rigid diaphragms in system like this is a problem. So then what to do? then in such cases we should assign the semi-rigid diaphragm option that you have in ETABS. So a semi-rigid diaphragm is nothing but it is just a usual assignment where the in plane rotation and translation is done as per the stiffness of your slab elements, okay, and stiffness of your other in plane elements. So that will give you a better and a accurate result. So in cases like these, it is better to assign the semi-rigid diaphragm. So semi-rigid diaphragm assignment will allow the actual behavior to be captured, and therefore it should be used in these cases. Now let us understand all these things that I have explained with the help of an ETABS model. So I have prepared a small model. I'll just share with you. Before that, I think I have to stop my screen and open the ETABS window. Let's see if it works. I don't know if you're able to see anything. What is visible right now? Nothing. I think the ETAB screen is visible now. Yeah. So I have prepared a small model like this. If you see, okay, it's a small multi-story, whatever you call it, a small model. And here what we have done, just for presentation purpose, we have a outer, this is our outer periphery. So these are all moment frames, okay, and then joining these moment frames are these collector elements that I have put over here. I'm not sure if you are able to see this. The red color elements that I have put are the collector elements to join the central core with the outer peripheral moment frame system. All right. Now what I will do is we will assign diaphragm, and initially I will assign a, rigid diaphragm to this. Okay. Yeah, one more thing here I will clarify. You can just simply select everything and assign a single diaphragm constraint to every floor level. All right. I sometimes do it this way, that for every floor level I assign a different diaphragm name. For example, I will make a D1, D2, D3, D4 like that. Okay, but it's not required. You can assign a single diaphragm assignment to all the floor levels, because diaphragm is nothing but just a constraint. So here, if you see, we have given a rigid diaphragm. Are you able to see this? We have given a D1 is my rigid diaphragm assignment. I don't know if it is visible on the window. Okay. So rigid diaphragm assignment has been given D1. And now let me just run this analysis and we will see the output, what is happening. So the analysis is uh, getting done. So first thing I will show you will be the F11 stresses. First thing I would like to show you would be the F11 stresses in the slab. All right. So let the output be shown on the screen, and then I will show you the F11 stresses. So what do we expect after all this discussion? What do we expect the F11 stresses to be? Because I have given a rigid diaphragm assignment, the F11 stresses we expect would be 0. All right. That is what we expect. Let's see if that happens or not. So I think it's taking a slightly longer time to analyze. Yeah, Sayo is asking difference between diaphragm assignment to joint and shell. Nothing much. Nothing much. You can, if you have a joint, you can give the joint assignment also. You can give the shell assignment also. Sometimes we have beams. We may not have a floor model. So there you can give your joint assignment. Here you can give a shell assignment. There is no difference. It is just a constraint that you are putting. Okay. So I don't know why this analysis is taking a long time, but I think it's happening now. So it will be interesting to see the results that we are getting for it. I think I should have kept the model ready with analysis done. Yeah. Okay. So we have the output now. Let me show you the F11 stresses first for lateral loads because we are more interested in looking it for the lateral loads. So here if you see, I don't know if you are able to see the output. Are you able to see this window? So the F11 stresses in this entire model is 0. If I am moving my cursor over here, the F11 stresses in this entire model is 0. Why so? Because we have given a rigid diaphragm assignment, so it will not give any F11 output. That degree of freedom is locked. All right. So the output we are getting is a 0. F11 value 0. Now if I go to the beam framing member forces, and if I show you the axial forces, again you will notice that the axial force is 0 in the collector elements. Let me just do one thing. I think the outputs are not visible on the screen, are they? Let me share my screen. I think the window is not visible. The member force window, is it visible when watching it live? I'm not sure. Okay. So the axial forces in this member is 0 right now. All right. Axial forces in this member is 0. Wait a minute. What I will do is I think I'll share my entire screen. That way you will be able to see it. Yes. So here you will see the axial force to be 0 in the collector element. Okay. No axial force. If I click on the M22, again you will see no M22 movement. All right, so everything is 0 over here. Why so? Because I have set a rigid diaphragm assignment. Now the interesting part is that if I had to analyze this, sorry, analysis I have done. If I had to design this, so I click on design. So because there is no axial force in the collector element, the member will not be designed for any axial force. All right. So in the design as well, we are going to miss out on the axial force in the collector element. Let's see. So let me just right click on this, and for a lateral load combination, I'm just showing you the results. you will see that the design PU is 0. Okay, there is no axial force in this collector element because the rigid diaphragm assignment was given. Now what I will do is I will unlock the model and I will change the definition to semi-rigid diaphragm. Okay, so when I change it to semi-rigid diaphragm, now I expect that we will get the in plane shear stresses F11, and I will also get the axial forces in the collector element. Okay, so those will be properly analyzed and accordingly taken in the design. That is what is our expectation is. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so the analysis is happening. Let it happen. Let the analysis happen, then we will see. Okay. I think running e-tabs in a live session may not be a very good idea because it is slowing the things down a bit. Anyway, so the analysis is happening and then I will show you the outputs. So this time we will see some interesting outputs because after giving the rigid, semi-rigid diaphragm assignment, now we will start getting the F11 stresses and we will also start getting the uh, in plane axial forces in the collectors. Yes. In the meantime, have you done this type of working before? Have you given rigid diaphragm assignments and seen the F11 stresses or tried to see all these outputs? Hello? Yes, anyone who has tried to see these outputs before? Okay, so I think no one has tried to see this type of an output before. So maybe it's the first time for us that we are trying to look into this issue. Okay. Yeah. So analysis has happened. What I will do is I will once again share my screen and I'll entire screen I will share. Yeah. I think the ETABS is visible. So now I will show you first the F11 stresses. And now interestingly, earlier what we were missing out in our F11 stresses, now we get those results. I think you can see this cursor, it is almost 60 kilonewton meter per meter unit, 60 kilonewton per meter width. This is the F11 stress I'm getting over here. All right. Similarly, I'm getting an F11 stress of almost close to 6970 per meter width over here. So all these F11 stresses otherwise I would have missed, especially at this junction points if I had given a rigid diaphragm, and now because I have given a semi-rigid diaphragm, I start getting these outputs. Okay. More interestingly, if I go to see the axial forces in the collector elements due to lateral loads, this time you will see substantial axial forces being generated. Yes or no? You will see substantial axial forces being generated in your member. This you were missing out earlier when you had given a rigid diaphragm assignment. Similarly, over here also you will see close to 80 kilonewtons of axial force which you would have missed earlier. Now, 80 kilonewton may be a substantial axial force in some cases. If your cross section is large, it may still not be very substantial. But if your building system, especially if you are doing a tall structure, it may be a substantial, what should I say? It may be a substantial axial force to miss out on. Now, if I give a concrete design option to this, so you will now see that the axial force in the collector will now be considered in the design as well. So if I right click over here and if I show you this member, this time you will see that the PU is 160 kilonewton that we were missing out on earlier, and we also start getting some MU2. So this PU and MU2 we were missing in the design earlier, but now because we have given a semi-rigid assignment, it is being considered because ETABS is calculating these in-plane axial forces and moment. So this is how the behavior is different when you give the rigid and when you give the semi-rigid assignment. Okay, so in cases where you have got large spans, in cases where you have such systems, when you have to design uh, when you have to design your collector elements, or where you have to check your slab for proper lateral load resistance, then you should give the semi-rigid assignment and then proceed. Okay, so I think this is what I had to tell you about this aspect about the semi-rigid and rigid diaphragms. I hope this is clear, our discussion. Yeah, it went a little bit slow because of that issue with the live demonstration in ETABS, but I think you understood. So what you can do is you can try it out yourself also by giving this rigid diaphragm assignment and semi-rigid diaphragm assignment and then looking at the outputs. So this is what I had to tell you about this semi-rigid and rigid diaphragms. Now I go to the next point in discussion. If you have any questions, you may ask, or we can take your questions later on as well. Okay. So now let me go to our next discussion point, and this is rather not a technical discussion per se, but nonetheless an important discussion. Okay. So as a civil engineer, we always want to build, we always want to create infrastructure. But the question over here that we would like to ask ourselves is that, are we destroying the nature? Are we destroying our ecosystem? And therefore, are we destroying ourselves by building too much infrastructure with very little planning? So that is what I would like to just discuss. This is a thought that uh, I mean, this is a thought that I had over the past 2 3 months. So I just thought I will put it over here on this platform for discussion. Too much infrastructure by doing too much uh, unplanned civil engineering. Okay, let's see. So I'll begin by two issues which are being faced more and more these days. So one is the issue of urban floods. Okay, what do I mean by urban flood? So by urban flood, I mean that the flooding that these days happens in every urban city in India. So be it Mumbai, be it Delhi, be it Bangalore, Hyderabad, go to any city, Calcutta, Guwahati, okay, it's flooding. The rains come and the every monsoon, one or the other city you see is under the floods. So why are these urban floods happening more and more and so often? I just shared some pictures. So this is from the floods in Srinagar that happened in 2014. where you had a almost a 20 feet, 15 feet water in Srinagar in many places. Then these are the images of the Chennai going under the floods in 2015. You have this image of Bihar. Bihar actually is a different issue why Bihar floods. Bihar floods mainly because of the rivers that come from Nepal. So I would say this is a slightly different issue why Bihar sees floods every year. This is Guwahati. Guwahati also floods almost every year these days. Every 2 or 3 years there would be flood in Guwahati. This is an image from 2017 Guwahati floods. This is from Kerala. So in 2018, Kerala faced a very bad flood situation. You might be aware of the dam, and there was some controversy about the dam management as well. So this was in 2018. This is Bengaluru last year, 2022, where you could see images of people evacuated in boats and whatnot. And recently, Delhi was under floods, 2023. So, what is causing all these? Uh, what is causing all these urban floods every year in the Indian cities? Okay, this is just a map that shows the area which is prone to flooding. You will see most parts of North India where the entire all the river systems of North India are there. You will see the parts of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Bengal, Odisha, and you will also see a few parts of Gujarat and a few parts of uh, Telangana. Okay, so these are the regions which are prone to flooding. But here we want to discuss that why urban flooding, the phenomena of urban flooding has increased. Okay, urban flooding, when I say, I am mainly talking about the cities getting flooded uh, in very short time, sudden flash flood like situations in cities, and uh, not in a very high rainfall event. Okay, so what is the reason for these this urban flooding phenomena that is seen in the Indian cities? Yeah, so as Mega is saying, rigid pavement, no water percolation. So I've tried to list down some points. So these days, in all the cities, if you see, most of the river floodplains, they have been encroached upon. Okay, so there is very little space for the rainfall water to exit from the urban space. Most of your river floodplains are encroached. Any big city you go, and the natural river, the natural drainage basin that you have, that will be encroached upon. If you have a city which has a lot of water bodies like lakes, etc., they will be choked up, or they will be filled up. They will be filled up, and there will be infrastructure projects coming out on them. All right, leaving very little scope for water collection and water drainage. Due to large scale incessant constructions, the open spaces are all covered with concrete, what Mega was saying. So, because of that, the runoff water increases. Okay, the runoff water increases because the ability of water to percolate has is drastically curtailed because of everything getting covered with concrete. Okay, so that is another issue. Another issue you could say that in most of the cities, the stormwater drainage that is designed has been designed, let's say 20, 30 years ago, and that was for a lower stormwater volume. And in new construction projects, you rarely get to see any provision for stormwater drainage. Okay, new roads coming up, new townships coming up, there is hardly any system made for proper stormwater drainage evacuation. So improper drainage planning, as Mr. Akbar Hamid is saying, that is also an important and a uh, issue which is the major cause. So what does this all lead to? So all these reasons lead to increased stormwater runoff. Your overall stormwater quantity increases because you have covered everything, so water is unable to percolate. So the stormwater quantity increases. You have got lower points for discharge because you have choked the uh, urban water bodies, you have choked the urban rivers. So it is a recipe for disaster. It is a sure shot reason for your urban floods that you get in the cities. Okay, and it has become a major problem in several cities of India. So we might be becoming smart under the smart city initiative, but due to, I would say, lack of planning, due to administrative mismanagement, and due to no vision, we are we are creating our city spaces almost unlivable. Okay, every rainy season and you see your cities turning in a swimming pool like situation. So I think this is a major reason for the flooding situation that we are getting. So the infrastructure that we are getting created in these urban spaces is almost like mindless urban infrastructure that we are creating without planning, and it is leading to this issue. Another point, what I would like to discuss over here, another hazard that we have been facing in an increased manner over the past few years is the issue of landslides and slope subsidence or settlements, mainly in the hilly regions of India. Okay, this is another hazard I think is man-made hazard as much as it is a natural hazard. So if you see the map of India, you will see the regions which are landslide prone. So you will see the parts of Ladakh, and you will see the parts of Jammu and South Kashmir, parts of Uttarakhand, Himachal, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, a few parts of Meghalaya, Tripura is also shown, though not very problematic, and then these Western Ghats. So all these regions are regions of landslide and slope subsidence problems. Okay. So in the recent years, again, if you see, if you have been following news, the events of landslide have been increasing. There are now problems with slope settlement. There are problems where your cities are settling, sinking, and it has been significantly increasing on year basis. Okay. So, what is the reason for these increased landslides and related issues? So, again, a few reasons, and the civil engineering aspect is also an important reason over here, that there has been a rapid deforestation and loosening of topsoil surface. We are doing unplanned large scale constructions on hill slopes, which adds to the problem. Okay, we are planning and constructing large scale infrastructural projects, large hydropower projects you will see, or large tunnels you will see in these regions, which, in my opinion, they disturb the critical ecological balance, and it leads to these issues like landslides and slope settlements and slope subsidence. Okay. All these areas which I had shown in the map, which are prone to landslides and slope subsidence, are also unfortunately major tourist areas in India. Okay, so people in India and from abroad, they travel in large numbers to these places. So when there is a large tourist influx, there is an added problem of the overall degradation of your environment and an overall degradation of your local ecosystem. So that is also adding to the issue of frequent landslides in these regions. If you see any hill station in these in India these days, it is just packed with buildings. You see any hill station, I have been to almost all these hill stations. All the slopes in the town will be full of unplanned houses built on the slopes. And as civil engineers, we understand that construction on slope is so tricky and dangerous, especially because the slopes in the Himalayan region are not stable slopes. All right, because Himalaya is a fold mountain, so Himalayan slopes are not stable slopes; they are unstable slopes. So making these types of constructions, you go to any hill city, you will see it full of these types of buildings everywhere. Okay, I'm just sharing some images that I have taken from the internet. So all hill towns from north to south, east to west, you will see they are packed with people, packed with buildings, and we have been constructing large scale infrastructural projects in these regions. Again, I said, of course, infrastructural projects are important, but we have to differentiate that at some locations we may not be able to go for such scale of projects because it disturbs the overall ecological and natural balance. So, this is a large scale project in Chamoli, Uttarakhand. There have been large scale road widening projects going on in Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh. All right. These two states are especially very prone to, extremely prone to landslides in rainy seasons. Okay. So large scale projects like these on your fragile slopes. So all these things are leading to the overall degradation of these regions and leading to these natural hazards. So we have to think that these regions are very important ecologically to the entire Indian subcontinent. Okay, because from all these northern regions, all the major river systems of India originate. Okay, whether it be the Brahmaputra river system or the Yamuna Ganga river system or the Indus river system, all these river systems originate from these uh, regions. Okay, and these river systems in the Indian subcontinent are sustaining almost a population of close to 2 billion people. So we have to think, as civil engineers also, we have to think that what sort of development model should be adopted. Okay, and the development model that, let's say, you are adopting somewhere in Madhya Pradesh may not be the same development model that you can adopt in a hill state like Himachal or a hill state like Uttarakhand or a hill state like Jammu Kashmir. Okay, so it has to be, we have to differentiate, we have to understand that all regions have to be dealt separately and independently of each other, and we have to also keep the overall sync with nature and ecology in mind, because we have to remember that the earth has survived for so long. For 4.54 billion years it has survived without us, so it will continue to survive without us in the future as well. So if we continue to harm the environment is not at risk, it will mend itself, but we are at risk and we may face extinction if we continue to disturb the ecological balance. So this is what I feel. As civil engineers, as planners, we have to understand these things as well, that in which regions what type of uh, infrastructural development should be done. All right. So this is what I had to tell you, and I'll just close this discussion with a few images of Joshimath that you might have read almost 6 months ago. It was in news because of the town that is now settling down. Okay, so since many years there have been warnings for Joshimath that it is settling, but then the pace of settlement suddenly increased over the past uh, 1 year, and it has been settling at a very fast pace right now. Almost, I think, 9 centimeter settlement was observed in Joshimath at many localities over there. So these are the images with which I would like to close my discussion. So it's a thought for all of us. All of us are civil engineers. We have to think what sort of development we want, and we have to understand that development should not come at the cost of disturbing the environment. Otherwise, we will face extinction in the future. So that's all what I had to tell you. Thank you. And if there are any questions, we can take them. Otherwise, we will move ahead with our third and final segment. All right. So design house is asking what should we use in defining earthquake in ETABS, x direction or x plus eccentricity or you can choose all the three. Okay, you choose all the three. ETABS applies all these three as stepwise application, and it will in the load combinations also it will internally take all these three cases and consider in the design as well. Then design house is asking, is it a good idea to use concealed beams? In our first episode, this is the 16th episode. In our first episode, we had discussed this issue in great detail. So I suggest you go to the YouTube playlist or our YouTube channel and you go to the first episode of this series where we have discussed the issue of concealed beam in great detail. Good. So I think we can move ahead and we go to our third segment. And as you all know, in this third segment, we usually meet a young engineer and we try to learn from their experiences. We try to learn from their knowledge, and we try to understand about their journey. So in this episode, we are pleased to invite engineer Akash Babar. He is a postgraduate in structural engineering. He has done his master's from Vellore Institute of Technology (VIT), and right now he practices as an independent structural consultant. And his firm is providing consultancy to public and private sector both. In the past, he has worked at some very good uh, consultancy consultancies. So he has worked at Sterling Engineering Consultancy, Mumbai. He has worked at Vakil Mehta Sheth VMS Consultants at Mumbai, and for a brief period, he has also worked at Stratcom Consultants at Pune. So right now, he is based at Sangli, and he is joining us from Sangli for this episode. So I'll just put him on the stream. Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Akash, for
Thank you, sir.
joining today, and sorry to keep you waiting for so long. Uh, so yes, welcome once again, and uh, tell us about yourself. A few things that after you did your engineering till now, what you have been doing.
First of all, thank you, sir, for providing me this opportunity to share my experience on this online platform. Since this is the 16th episode, I was in the audience for the first 15 episodes. Now it feels
Mm.
great to be a speaker in the 16th episode finally.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
I have been
Uh,
after you for almost 5, 6 episodes now.
yes, sir. So finally, we decided to speak on some important topic. Uh, and I think that this today's topic will be a wake up call for some engineers. So
Yeah.
we will speak on that. And as you asked me,
Ah,
after completion of my post graduation, I joined Sterling Engineering Consultants in Mumbai. There I had an opportunity to work on some of the prestigious high rise buildings in Mumbai. Later on, I also worked with the BMS consultants at Mumbai.
okay.
There too, I handled both residential and industrial projects.
Okay.
So after leaving Mumbai, I stayed in the Pune for a brief period of time and worked with another consultants in commercial and residential buildings. And from past 1 year, I'm practicing structural consultant. I do my independent designs.
Very good.
I'm based in Sangli, Maharashtra.
Okay. Very good.
Yes.
So the type of projects that you handled before were mainly industrial and no commercial and residential high rises.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And right now you are doing what type of projects as an independent consultant?
Right now, the projects range from normal G plus to bungalow.
Okay.
to maximum. Currently, now I'm doing a 10-story data center. So we
Wonderful.
have included wide variety of projects. These
Yeah.
include structural steel platforms, water
Oh,
tanks, and many residential complexes, educational campuses. It's our upcoming project.
okay.
And I must thank Oxen and you in particular, so that I could dare this daring
No,
of doing an
no,
independent consultancy,
no, no,
because this would not have been possible with your support and guidance.
no, no. It's all because of you. We can only do as much as we can, but it is because of you. Very good. So you also do the for your projects. You also do the supervision work, and I mean for the projects that you design in Sangli, you do the supervision also, or you are not involved in supervision as a consultant.
I am also involved in the supervision of site, for which
Okay.
for those site which I have personally designed. I
Okay.
go on site visits wherever the site may be.
Okay. So for the data center, because it was an interesting thing that you told, so is there any specific code of practice that you have to use, or just the usual Indian standards, or any specific standard that is available for data center design?
Basically, a data center is a commercial building,
Okay.
and the one which I have been designing, I have been a sub consultant for the project,
Okay.
and it's typically an RCC building, but the floor to floor height is 6.5 meter for each floor.
Acha. Oh.
Yes, and it's just a 10-story building, but it measures 68 meter in height,
Ah, correct.
and the floor loading is 22.5 kilonewton per square meter on each floor.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I
And
wanted to know because data center buildings are usually very heavy because of the large weight of these servers.
yes,
Yeah.
and the grid spacing is 12 meters, both in X and Y direction.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes. So we are just trying out to separate out the buildings by providing some gaps, some
Ah,
alternative structural systems other than
oh,
RCC.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
the work is in the design development stage.
Okay. Very interesting. Perhaps you
Yes.
could have given a entire presentation on it, or maybe in future
Yes.
you can give us an entire presentation.
Yes, I'll surely give about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So today you when we were discussing about what you will be or what we will be discussing in today's episode, you said that you will like to take some a topic that is not related to structural engineering directly. Of course, it is of great importance. So I invite you to kindly address today's topic that you have selected.
Yes, sir, sure. So today's topic is relevant to all engineers, whether they may be civil, structural, or from any other branch, because this thing has become important in today's day-to-day life. So I would like
Yes.
to just throw some light on it. I would not be giving any hardcore training to the participants,
Uh,
but I would just leave my presentation with a thought, so that everyone could think on this and act by their own means at their own convenience.
yeah.
Just like our previous presentation, which you had shared, we
Yeah.
have left to the thought to think.
Yeah. Correct.
So I'll just start my presentation.
Sure. You can share your screen.
Yes.
So, if our audience has any question to ask Mr. Akash, they can just type in their questions. Of course, he has not even started right now, but any question you want to ask him, you can just type your question in the comment section. Yes, Mr.
Is my
Akash.
screen visible?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Okay, so today I'm going to speak about soft skills and why they are called soft skills and should we really call them soft skills. We'll discuss. And in no way I'm a soft skill trainer, so I'll just uh, put throw a light from my side. I'm basically a civil engineer as introduced by you, sir. So let's understand what do you mean by soft skills in the first place and how they are different from our technical skills which we learn in our engineering. So as stated, these skills help to develop our personality overall, and they help in achieving that what we have decided in our life. So how they will help us, that I will explain very soon. And these skills also help us to develop overall our physical, mental, emotional, everything at all levels. And are we too late to develop these skills? I think I don't think so. We can develop these skills at any point of time, and we should have an interest in developing these skills.
Yes.
We have lot number of resources to available today, so we basically should have interest to develop these skills, and anyone at any given point of time can develop these. uh, I recently read that Anant Agarwal, he is the founder of edX, an online education platform. He said that now we should not call these skills as soft skills. We should say these are the power skills, which will eventually help us in our career.
Correct.
So, in India, many people think that soft skills means like English skills,
Hmm.
grammar, comprehension, only
Yeah.
verbal and written communications. So, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Although English communication is included as one part in soft skill, but it is not entirely the soft skills.
Correct.
And to in today's world, we should understand that why we need to develop these skills and why everyone is talking about this. uh, if we see the university curriculum in one of the top universities in India, about 10%, that is out of only four subjects out of 40 subjects in entire 4 year duration, is taught about soft skill. Two
Hmm.
in the first and second semester, and last when we go for the placements.
Hmm.
Also, we as engineers are not very emphasizing this and giving more importance to these skills in our day-to-day life.
Hmm.
We are very busy in our day-to-day engineering work, and there is a global debate on the STEM versus humanities courses, where everybody is focusing on how humanities courses are very much important for the science, technology, engineering, and management students.
Hmm.
Now, in today's world, the human behavior has also changed. We have become more technical, more practical. We do work for long hours. So these things have become an important thing. Also, in
Yeah.
COVID scenario, we thought work from home, and we used to deal with people in the online manner.
Hmm.
So here, our written skills, presentation skills, our communication has become important. Also,
Yes.
many of my seniors, uh, particularly working in civil and structural design domain, have highlighted this need to install the soft skills in civil engineering students, as they are very much lagging in it.
Hmm.
Also, the many top MNCs are setting up their offices in India, and they're recruiting civil structural engineers. So we need to equip ourselves with these skills. So this is the need of the hour.
Yeah, I
And
think
there are,
architects have just to interrupt you. I think architects have better soft skills than structural engineers when it comes to, I mean, a comparison. That is my opinion. I may be wrong, but
yes,
that's my opinion. Yeah, please go ahead.
yes, sir. Most of the skills, they are I classified them into three verticals. That is the self-management, communication, and some miscellaneous skills. So as you can see on the screens, the soft skills or the power skills are a set of these skills, and we need to develop this over time. We cannot achieve these skills just by doing one course, two course. This is a lifelong learning. We have to try various things in our day-to-day life, and we have to read various books, read various resources, meet people, and try to implement these skills in our day-to-day activity and change accordingly on how people react to us. So many of these things are not technically taught in the engineering curriculum as far as India is concerned. Of course, we are taught with some general aptitude, English skills, how to write email letters. But in today's world, even how to write a WhatsApp message has also become more important. So people interpret according to their
Yeah.
convenience. So this is one thing. So there are many factors. These are just some skills which I think that we should look into. So moving on, particularly for civil engineers, according to my opinion, these things are much needed. So we can begin with this and later on develop some remaining skills. The first one I have mentioned is assertiveness. Assertiveness means like there are three types of people generally classified. One is the passive. Passive people, they have the motto that, okay, I lose this battle and you win this battle.
Hmm.
Second one is the aggressive people. They take everything from you. They say, no, I win and you lose. But we have to learn to be assertive. Assertive means that I win and I'll ensure that you also win.
Uh,
So one thing that we have to inculcate in our day-to-day activities is the assertiveness. We should always go for a win-win situation and never feel that we should make someone lose the game. So assertiveness is one thing which I think we should work on. Second is the oral and written communication, uh, which we have been studying since our school days. But somehow, uh, when we come into our profession, these skills get sidelined. We talk very rudely. Sometimes we are very polite, and our written communications we make mistakes. But we should learn from these mistakes and continuously try to improve step by step. The third point is the humor and the health. Humor at, especially I'm talking about humor at workplace, humor in profession. I saw that most of the designers are very tense during their working hours. Typically from morning 9:30 to 6:30, everybody is engaged in ETAP, SAFE, Excel. Everybody has the deadline. So we should means like I'm not saying that we should do a stand-up comedy and go for comedy movies, but some we should try to find some humor in our work. So how that will we will find that like that we should go step by step. It will not come in one day or 2 days. And regarding health, everybody knows I'm not going to speak more about health. Everybody knows what to eat, how to exercise, because if we are in a good health, then only we can do all our work. Next point is our conflict management. We deal with various peoples ranging from site labor work to the top-notch management to the international architects. So each and everywhere we are bound to have a conflict between the contractor and the structural engineer, the architect, or sometimes the architect and the client. So as I said earlier, we should be assertive in this conflict management and bring about a win-win situation for all the participants. And lastly, we work for money, we get monetary benefits from our job, from our business. So the management is of utmost importance. Now, how to manage money, that is altogether a different topic. And this, I will be sharing some key differences between the technical skills and the soft skills, which we have been learning since first year of our engineering. And the engineering skills, they are pretty much technology oriented, means like we perform our day to day tasks using computers, laptops, calculators, and we are very much engulfed in our mathematical approach, that we have using more of our left brain rather than using more of our right brain. The left brain is just like analytical brain. We put everything into numbers form.
Mm.
And as a human being, we are not much thinking about the other values, ethics, which we need to be having thinking. So soft skills, or rather power skills, they had to deal with people on everyday basis, since we are bound to have discussions with the people every day. Secondly, these engineering skills, or some technical skills, may become redundant over time. That we have currently the debate and the news is spreading that AI is taken over
Mm.
jobs. There might be some workforce cutting in big organizations in the computer and IT domain.
Yeah.
But these skills, they have been existing since the time, and we have been seeing in various movies, serials, which we have been seeing, and in also in our day to day life, we use this engineering and all, we use in our 8 hours work out of 24 hours.
Mm.
But here we are using it every hour, the soft skills which we have been mentioned. And the engineering skills, generally they are taught in the classroom with the help of some books, some machines, and we just write the exams related to those skills. But these skills, they are experiential learning, means like we have to continuously keep experimenting. We have to learn something and then keep on experimenting on ourselves, and then move on whether this thing has worked or not. So experiential learning is very much important in soft skill. Although engineering skills may provide us with the monetary gains like money, land, whatever we aspire in our life, but this soft skill will ensure us in achieving things which money cannot buy. For example, getting connected to people,
Mm.
having a good sleep, having a good health, being assertive, being humorous, because everyone remembers a person who made them laugh, not who made them cry.
Yeah.
So these skills have become very much important. Although we should not neglect engineering skills, they are also important. But now the time has come that we should also focus on the soft skills. And there, as I mentioned, there are many skills. I request the participant just to try at one of the skill which they need. Also, there are very much principles, laws in this soft skill. I'll shortly explain the Zeigarnik effect, which says that the unfinished time will always consume unfinished activity will always consume your time, means that we'll always have in mind that one of our activities is unfinished. So this is the productivity tip. In this, if you are going to start any activity, any work, make sure that you finish it within the time. And this is in conjunction with the Parkinson's law, that the available work will fill the time, means that if you have a for example, in a structural engineering domain, if you want to design a G+4 building and suppose you give 2 days for it, you can surely design it in 2 days. But if you don't have any work and you just lazily delay it, then you can complete the same work even in 7 days or even in a whole month.
Yeah.
Whether that building can be completed in 2 days, you have taken 31 days. So this
Mm.
is the Parkinson's law. The work fills the available time. And Zeigarnik effect is for productivity. Once you start any activity, make sure that you finish it full and final. Don't keep it pending. And another is the Stephen Covey's model, which states a matrix for managing our works. And Stephen Covey has divided the matrix into four quadrants. First one is the important and urgent, that you list in the first quadrant. Then is the second is important and not urgent. Then third is not important and urgent. And fourth is not important and non-urgent. So based on our experience, based on our work, we should classify all our day-to-day activities in these four quadrants, and we should try to finish those which are important and urgent.
Mm.
Secondly, not important and urgent. So like this, we should try to inculcate this Stephen Covey's model in our day-to-day life. We will not get 100% success in the first trial. So as I said, this is a continuous process, experiential learning. We should go try out every day. And Parotto, he was an Italian, and I'm very happy to say that he was also a civil engineer by profession.
Acha.
And he stated that uh, you are out of 100%, only 20% of your efforts will contribute to your results. For example, if you have any fundraiser campaign, so 20% of people will gain, provide you the maximum funds, and 80% will give you minimum funds. Means like 20% of the things will yield you more results rather than 80% of the things, and we should ensure that we put maximum effort in this 20% of the activities.
Mm.
So this is the Pareto principle. So these are some of the models, principles, laws in soft skills. And I think that engineering community somewhere is lagging behind, because as I said, we learn only 10% of the skills in our curriculum. And even though we sit in our offices, we go on site, the site culture that is dealing with the masons, laborers, is still much pretty much prevalent in the offices too. At some places, not everywhere, but at some places it's hugely prevalent. We cannot deal the same way we deal with to an architect or some higher position person like that. And as we have seen that we are very much inclined towards technical skills rather than the soft skills. Day in and day out, we learn about all the design related issues, but we should introspect on how much time we are putting on our soft skills development. So this also has affected the community by at large. And as I said, that people study it only during the campus placement, like during the campus, if there is any multinational company visiting the campus for its placements, we are taught with English writing, how to speak, how to talk, how to write letters, general aptitude. So I think that this should not be a one semester or two semesters thing. This should be a lifelong learning. And somewhere we have to begin now, taking just one thing at a time. We should go on continuously improving ourselves. And as civil engineers, we deal with variety of people over the time. And in this, I have personally observed that people who speak politely, who are pretty much grounded, they are less arrogant, they tend to win most of the situations over which the people having good technical skills. This is my personal observation, because I have seen that even though people who have very good technical amount of skills are losing on projects, they are losing on employees, to people who have good communication skills, but they might not be technically that sound. So this is my personal observation.
Mm.
And since English is a foreign language for us Indians, uh, each and everyone is afraid of communicating in English. So somewhere we have to start developing our English skills, because most of the content regarding to the soft skill development is available in English language only. So I think that the engineering community should somewhere, now it's time that we start off with some things and take
Hmm.
these two also seriously alongside with our engineering skills. Now, how to develop the soft skills? Like, I'll just give some roadmap. There are n number of ways to achieve them, but this is my personal opinion. And the first step is that beginning with the end in the mind. First, before starting anything, that let's think about what happens, what are our objectives, our aims, what we will achieve from learning these skills or trying out these skills. So this we should keep in the mind before beginning any activity. Second is the growth mindset. We should continuously learn from our failures. We should continuously change our strategies if one strategy is not working. Also, there are a lot of mentors available, so we should reach out through them and help and ask help for those. Next thing is the targets. There are, as everyone knows, that we cannot set multiple targets at the same time. So some realistic targets, good management activities result that they result in the targets which we have written down, and some actions which put those tasks into those targets. So these things are important. Along with, there is one Japanese principle of Kaizen which states that continuous improvement, and it states that we should never stop learning continuously, as we are learning technical skills through various technical platforms. Similarly, these soft skills needed to be learned over the period of time, continuously improve. And the sources we have today, huge lot of resources available in today's world. We have books. You might refer to the self-help book section, which is available at the Crosswords. So here you will find lot of these books, n number of websites, a large number of YouTube channels, and resource persons. Of course, there are. It's always better to have a one-to-one conversation with some resource person or some mentor. So as we have some mentors or some resource person in your technical skills, I feel that we should also have these persons, these mentors in our non-technical skills too.
Yes.
And this I'll end my presentation with this slide, which quote stating by Christopher Reeve, that you learn everything you can, anytime you can, from anyone you can. There always come a time when you will be grateful that you did. So I
Very.
request all the participants to just start off with any one of the skill which they feel they are lacking, work on it continuously, and at some point of time, maybe in 6 months or 1 year, you will be very grateful that yes, you started it a year back. So it's really going to be help. And if someone needs this presentation, they can message me. You can note down my email ID. I'll be happy to help all of you. And I personally realized this very soon, uh, in this year, 2023. I just enrolled in a course of soft skills.
Okay.
So I thought that yes, these things are also important in our life as a business owner. I need to know how to speak to people properly.
Uh,
I need to know how to put my communication, how to put my design through my words to the people,
yeah.
because the local people need to understand what is the structural design and why we are important.
Correct.
So this led to me a thought. I had a thought to develop my skills. I made a strategy that I would enroll in a course. I
Oh,
set up a target that I would earn a certificate. My
hmm.
target is complete. Now I'm applying these skills in my day-to-day life and continuously keeping a track record whether okay, this strategy is working. Okay, maybe I should change this. I should not say this. I should say this. So
Uh,
these things are just experimental things. We should they are not fixed for a particular person. So you should evolve this over time, and maybe over 1 or 2 years, we could see great results. So I think in this manner.
Very nice. Wonderful presentation and very well explained the topics that you wanted to pass on to the audience. So, if I may ask that, what is one skill, soft skill that you have been working on over the past 6, 7 months, if you could tell us?
I have been trying to reach out to people and explaining them why what I am doing basically, because local level people, they don't much understand what is meant by structural design, what it is, and
Hmm.
why we are important for a particular project. So
Yeah.
this in this by default I'm using my English skills, I'm using my written communication, my
Hmm.
verbal communication, my non-verbal communication like body language, or in fact there are many other factors which influence our conversation. So many
Uh,
of things I'm trying.
hmm.
Second thing which I mentioned in this presentation is assertiveness, that I am trying to bring out a win-win situation for everyone.
Hmm.
Okay, so I come to some conclusion or some theory that okay, this thing is from my side, and this thing you can do it from your side. So it's like a win-win situation. I'm trying to bring in assertiveness. I'm trying out with my communication skills. And today, through this video, I'm trying out with my presentation skills. So I don't know
Yeah,
how
I
you
must say you have done a good job at presentation.
this is the first time I'm giving an online presentation through YouTube channel.
You have done a good job. You have done a good
We
job.
have always heard you. Yes. So
So
also,
Marathi,
also this.
you don't need Marathi communication while dealing with people in Sangli?
Yes, we speak Marathi, but
Uh,
since I have said that this soft skills or engineering entirely it is based out in English language,
uh,
so we should keep a hand on it too, because in India we speak various languages.
uh,
Also, we tend to express more ourselves. The feeling comes in our local language
yeah,
rather than the foreign language.
yes.
So, but local language won't work in corporate sector, or where in this era of globalization. And we should use both. Means like it's
Mr.
not like that we should be
Akash is
stuck.
asking, but why use English alone? Because as he is rightly saying, that language is just a tool of communication. Meanings of many terms may get lost in the translation. Yeah, so I agree with Mr. Akash. What are your thoughts about it?
Yes, sir. As I said, means like he's right. Language is a tool of communication, and in fact, not just spoken language. Our body language is also a tool of communication.
Yeah,
And in order so that we not mistranslate or misinterpret any of our words, as I stated, we should have a good command over both the languages,
yeah,
at least the working part of both the languages we should know, so that we don't end up messing up things.
yeah. So Mega is congratulating you for a good and informative presentation.
Thank you.
Then she's asking that as you are practicing as an independent consultant,
Okay.
She is continuing the question. Can you please tell the hurdles that you faced or that you are facing?
Mhm. Yes, there are many hurdles as we practice as a consultant. The first thing which I am facing, which I have already explained and which I am getting over it, is to reach out to people and tell what exactly are you doing? What is the structural design? Why is it important for design of buildings? Why a structural engineer is needed? As people know the work of a doctor, so people ask me, if you are a civil engineer, then do you take contracting? Do you also build roads? So there are many hurdles, and as a practicing consultant, I would like to speak on that separately on some other day, because I would also mention the hurdles and the possible solutions to overcome these hurdles, because they cannot be put in one or two lines.
Yeah,
Uh, we always have hurdles. So we are trying our way out to get out of these hurdles by implementing some strategy. If that doesn't work in the first thing, then we go out for the next strategy. So these things I learned from these soft skills actually.
very
So
nice.
overcoming hurdles as a practicing consultant would be some another day's talk.
Okay. So I'll invite you once again in the future.
Yes, sure.
So what do you do for your health? You said health is also one of the important maintaining health.
Yes. Yes. By maintaining health, at first of all, I'd like to make it very clear that I do not go to any gym. So I just find peace in cycling with my
Yeah.
headphones on,
Ah,
or by fast walking to my office, which is
yeah.
within 1 kilometer of my house.
Okay.
I also try to ensure that I do minimal some set of my minimum exercises in the morning.
Very good.
But I would also like to accept that I am not doing this on everyday basis.
Ah,
But this I would like to do every day since it is important. But in the beginning, I was at a level zero, means like I did not do anything.
yeah.
But after this course, okay, I'm on level one, I'm doing something.
Ah,
Within next 2 months, I'm going up to level second,
correct.
where I would personally challenge myself to increase my exercises and the sets which I have been doing as of now.
Ah.
So
And
I would not brag much about myself.
and you had mentioned some self-help books that you found useful or you read in the past or are reading. So could you suggest some self-help books to our audience if they want to read some and get inspired by a few books?
Okay. So I read this book on which everyone I think must have read. It's on money management. It's like Rich Dad and Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki, huh?
And most of the things I try to learn it from some videos or
Mm,
through some resource persons in particular.
mm,
So list of books, if anybody wants, then I might put some list
sure.
to the participants. But one book I have read, that Rich Dad and Poor Dad.
Huh.
And as I have said, that we are very much engaged in our day-to-day engineering skills, that we tend to forget this soft
Mm,
skill.
yeah.
I too was also the part of the crowd, but I just started moving out. I read just one book till now. I'll make
Huh.
sure that in the next talk I will come up with
You
some
come
2 3
prepared
books.
with more numbers.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Akash is saying, how do you take care of limiting your liabilities as a newer independent consultant in your contracts? So I think this you can answer later on separately as
I think we should have some separate session on uh,
sure. Yes.
independent consultants. People are having much
Huh.
more questions on this.
So you can actually give us a presentation on the entire journey, right from doing some paperwork, getting permissions, getting licenses, maybe getting a PAN
Yes.
card for your firm, applying for GST registration. So you can start from there and you can give a complete talk on it.
Yes.
Okay. So I
Yes.
think good. Thank you, and thank you for sharing your wonderful presentation. And it was a different topic. So in all our 16 episodes, it was the first time that a topic other than technical topic was presented, but you presented it very well, and I hope the audience found it useful and informative. So thank you so
Yes,
much
sir.
for taking out time on a weekend and joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you once again, and all
Thank
the
you,
best
sir.
to you. Thank you. All the
Thank
best
you.
to you.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Bye. Good
Bye.
night.
Bye. Good night. So that is all we have for this episode. Uh, if you have any questions, you can write it in the comments box, and I will take them later. So I think we will close this episode today. Thanks again for taking out time on a weekend and joining us this evening. So that's all, and wishing you a very happy Independence Day on 15th of August. So I hope we truly become independent, not just in terms of sovereign rights, but also mentally, culturally, we become independent in the years to come. So that's all. Thank you. Bye bye. And next episode will be now in sometime in September. So we actually missed an episode in July because uh, I and Akanksha, my wife, we were traveling, so we could not conduct an episode in July, but we will come back in September now. Okay, that is all. Thank you. Bye bye, and have a good weekend. And yeah, enjoy.